Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Yapurnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Manah Punaha. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Before beginning his commentary on this Upanishad, Bhashyakara Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya gives an introduction, gives the connection between what has preceded and what is coming. It's called Sangati or connection. It's always important to know the connection even from one sentence to the other. Everything must be connected logically or in some way properly connected. Because our intellect always functions on connections. It always wants to see why something happened. When a sentence is uttered, when you go to the next sentence, the mind can grasp the sentence, provided it is related to the previous sentence. There must be thus a logical connection, because our intellect functions on reasoning, on logic. So also the Upanishad, ChhandogyaUpanishad, is preceded by, as we said, the Brahmana section, which is the section dealing with karma or the rituals. Even some upasanas also, some meditations are already discussed before the Chandogya Upanishad. So then what is the need of this Chandogya Upanishad, number one? Number two, why does this Upanishad begin with the description of upasanas or meditations? Why? So this is what our mind would want to know. When you understand why a given thing is where it is, then the mind is settled. When the mind is settled, then we are disposed to apply ourselves, listen to what is being told. Otherwise, mind will keep on questioning, but why is he saying that? What's the reason? So if our mind has question of why is this being said? What is the context? What is the reason? If that is not clear to the mind, inside the mind will keep on asking this. And perhaps our attention may not be on what is being said, because the mind is not clear why is it being said. You follow? So why? Question arises always. That's called akanksha, expectancy. This is the nature of our mind. And sometimes the text may not necessarily say that clearly. Then the commentator has to explain to us what that connection is. It's there, but we may not be able to see it ourselves. So that's what the role, the function that the commentators, among other things, also perform. So Bhashyakara says that what has gone by is all these different rituals. And understand what is a ritual, what is a Vedic ritual or Vedic form of worship. Those days the worship was not through the murti that we have. The tangible forms were not yet there. And so the devatas or deities were worshipped for invoking their grace. Human being has always recognized that we need the grace of some powers who rule our life or who can influence our life. That there are powers or forces which are called devatas or deities or gods who does and who can influence our life positively as well as negatively. This is a belief. So what we want is that they should influence our life in a positive manner. That these devatas, the deities, or let us say, the various forces of nature should be favorable to us. Because for successful accomplishment of any endeavor, we certainly require an adequate effort. There is no doubt about that. We have to make an effort. That's called purushartha or prayatna. Human effort and adequate effort at proper time. All of this is required. But even when all those conditions are satisfied, that at a given right time I make the effort, the right kind of effort I make, for right length of time I make the effort, meaning that I'm quite sincere and devoted with reference to what it is that I can do. And still, we know very well that there is no certainty that the outcome will be what I want it to be. We know that the outcome of any effort is uncertain because there are factors beyond our own effort which also influence the outcome. And therefore, we need the favor of those factors also. And we say that all those factors which we do not control are controlled by Ishvara, by God. And Ishvara alone manifests as this universe, as the various forces. We are called devatas or deities. And therefore, that they also, their favor or grace also is required for an accomplishment of a desired end. That our effort alone is not enough. We also require the favor or grace of these unknown factors also. That we want the unknown factors also to be favorable to us. And that's how the idea of seeking the grace or favor came. That's the idea of worship comes. What is worship? Worship is an attempt to please. When I please you, then you are most likely to please me also. Or if I want you to help me or favor me, then I should create a condition where you are motivated to do that, which is when I please you. So worship is of the nature of pleasing the devatas. How do you please them? You offer them what they like. We said this yesterday. You offer them what they like. These are human being things, you know. So now, every devata, everybody has their own, preferences. Some devata, some deity likes some kind of food, some kind of clothes, some kind of ornaments, etc., etc. And so different deities are offered different things depending upon what they like. I already discussed it yesterday, how Lord Shiva is fond of being bathed, how Lord Vishnu is fond of being ornamented, how Surya Sun is fond of these namaskara salutations as examples. And so you find that now in those days there were no murtis, no tangible things. The devatas were all invoked in fire. Fire is said to be a messenger who carries what we offer to the devatas. What you offer is in fire. Devatas are supposed to be in heaven. So then this fire, hutavaha, it takes what you offer to the devatas. And so devatas are invoked, offerings are made, and so devatas get their offering, and that's how they are pleased. And that's how they favor you, by doing what is necessary to fulfill your desire. It's a contractual, situation here. Therefore, since human being has so many desires, there were so many kinds of rituals are prescribed for worshipping so many kind of devatas or deities. And thus, the Brahmana section or Karmakanda section, the section dealing with karma rituals, has many, many rituals to accommodate or to try to fulfill the needs of variety of human beings with variety of desires. It's a very voluminous section. So when you perform this ritual, it will yield its result. Then sometimes they also prescribe some additional things to enhance that result, you follow? When you do some action, the result will come. But if you do something more in that action, maybe the result will be enhanced. And therefore, they say that while performing ritual, you may also perform some meditations or mental worship of the devata that you are worshipping. You are worshipping by making offering in the fire. And further, may you worship him by meditation, the mental worship. That's an option. But if you do that, then the result will be enhanced. Meaning that your ritual will become more effective. So there were many such meditations also were prescribed, which go along with karma or rituals. So ritual is called karma, and the meditation is called upasana or vidya. Vidya means knowledge. Upasana also means knowledge. So karma, or sometimes called jnanam. Jnanam also means knowledge. Vidya also means knowledge. So karma and jnana. Karma means ritual. Jnana here means meditation or upasana. So all of these were described earlier. Primarily to help the human being fulfill his desires. And so Bhashyakara describes here, where does Upanishad come in? So when you perform all these rituals and just live a virtuous life, a religious life, then you'll be rewarded. And reward can be in different ways depending upon how much merit you earn. Depending on what kind of merits you earn and how much merits you earn, accordingly the reward will come. So reward comes in the form of you're enjoying the pleasures available in different realms called heavens. So there are 7 heavens. These all, just to give you an idea of the whole setup. Whether to accept it, believe is a different matter. But this is what it is. This is what they believed and this is what they did. Whether we believe or not is up to us. Whether we want to do this or not is also up to us. But just to give you an idea of what prevailed at that time. Bhuhu, bhuvaha, suvaha, maha, janaha, tapaha, satyam. Satyam is Brahmaloka. Each following world or realm or heaven offers you many more times the happiness than the previous one. So when you study the Upanishad, you learn how each following stage offers you 100 times the intensity of pleasure. That if a human being ideal, who has all the means at his disposal, and the maximum happiness you can enjoy, because you all the means that of enjoyment, all capacities to enjoy, everything is there. All the highest enjoyment that a human being can get, call it 1 unit of pleasure, let us say, 1 unit of happiness. Multiply that by 100 is 1 unit of the Manushya Gandharva, another yoni, another species. Multiply the 100, Deva Gandharva. Multiply that by 100, Pitrus or the mains. Multiply that 100, Ajana Deva. 100, Karma Deva. 100, Deva. 100 means multiply by 100. Then Indra, then Brihaspati, then Prajapati, then Brahma. This is how Brahma means Brahmaloka. So from Bhuhu means Manushya-loka, the world of human beings, to Brahmaloka means the world of Brahma. There is all this ascending levels of happiness. By the time you reach Brahmaloka, it is 10 times how many I have to count, So that is a happiness. And you will get one of these things depending upon what merit you are. Naturally, when you go to a shopping center, what can you buy? Depending on what you have in your pocket, is it not so? You like this dress and that dress, and what is the cost? $9,000. I'm sorry, I just have a few bucks in my hand, pocket. So you can only get what you can pay for. So now, also the scriptures describe how do you achieve those worlds. Those worlds or realms also are now categorized or in 2 categories. One are those after reaching where you come back again to this world. Others are those reaching where you do not come back to this world. In the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you hear this description. Shukla Krishna gati hyete jagata shashvate mate eka yatyana vrittim anyaya vartate punaha. Thus there are two paths are there, 2 passages are there. Shukla and Krishna, the bright and dark. So those who perform bright karma, bright actions, many actions along with meditations, they travel along the bright path. And those who simply perform the rituals without meditations travel along the dark path. The dark path is a path characterized by returning back to this world. The bright path is characterized by not returning to this world. So one is called Uttarayana and Dakshinayana. Path of northern solstice, path of southern solstice. This is just for your information. I am not going to burden you with details, etc. So just so you know the setup. All this has gone by, that is why I am just describing the general setup. Don't ask million questions about this in the evening because it doesn't much relate to us at this time. I should not say it does not relate, but anyway, right now it is not in our, what they call, not in our radar. I mean, that means this is not in our thinking process, therefore, it is all there in the Vedic times. Today we talk about going to moon and Mars and New Zealand and Canada and stuff like that. That's what Indians think. So there is their world. Those days worlds were different. So always human being has some worlds to go to. And the description may change. But he is not happy with where he is, so he wants to go someplace else. Which is very promising. So he sees, Canada, wow, he sees pictures, and New Zealand and Australia, and wants to go there. Similarly, people want to go to heaven. That's what it is. So the modern heavens are New Zealand for Indians, and then Australia, and then Canada, and then United States is Brahmaloka. So but understand that even when you go to our Swami used to say, even when you go to heaven, you're not free from samsara because there also are gradations. In heaven also you can be a cook, You can be a servant, you can be a driver, you can be a watchman, you can be a rich man, you may have an apartment, with overlooking a garden, or even an apartment overlooking garbage. It depends on, where you get. Upon your punya. How much rent you can pay, how much punya you have. So same samsara follows in a different way. Because there also the driver is jealous of cook and cook is jealous of his master and he is jealous of, I have this flat apartment, there is that apartment. So whatever, meaning that you don't become free from samsara even if you go to heaven. That's the whole idea. And then exhausting the punya or virtue that you accumulated, you come back. Or if you go to Brahmaloka, then they say that, then also you come back, or that two kinds of descriptions are there. Some description says, going to Brahmaloka you come back. Other description says, after Brahmaloka you do not come back. If you go to Brahmaloka with the desire for pleasure, you come back after enjoying pleasures. If you happen to go to Brahmaloka because you are actually seeking moksha, but because of some obstacle you could not accomplish that goal. So you are vairagya, you are not interested in pleasures. Then you wind up in Brahmaloka. Then you get knowledge from Brahmaji and you get liberated. It's called Krama Mukti, the liberation in Krama or in stages. So you get idea of the whole setup, Vedic setup. Because when you study these things, now and then you come across them. And suppose you study Bhashya, etc. Then because they have that orientation, Upanishad has that orientation. Bhashyakara has that, therefore they will mention these things. And then we get lost. What is he talking about? So there is necessary to have a general information. And when you go to Canada, Montreal for example, you should basically know what's there. You have to learn French, because all the signboards are in French. When we enter, you can't follow anything, when you don't know French language, and then you go round and round, and the different cities. You go to Boston, everything is circles and radiates, and from New York, which is all square and perpendicular, you go to Boston, So before you go there, you should have this orientation of where you are going. All of this is described. So, two gatis are there. One gati is what? That you go to this world of mains and then you enjoy and come back to the southern path. To northern path you go to Brahmaloka and then also ultimately you come back. And there is a third gati also. Third path also is there. What is the third way also is there. Is those who don't follow this Vedic path. Because to follow the injunctions of any scripture, Vedas or any scriptures, whatever person's tradition may be. So, all religious teachers will always want you to live the life of dharma. So, all teach dharma means a righteous way of life. The details may vary of what Christianity teaches and what Islam teaches, what Hinduism teaches, etc. But in any case, following life of dharma or righteousness will always involve self-restraint. Meaning you have to control your mind, and you have to control the mind from falling prey to temptations, because if you allow the mind to be tempted, then there are no boundaries at all. Like driving on a highway which is very smooth and wide, not much then if you allow your mind to have its own way, then the speed goes 80 kilometers, 100 kilometers, 120, 140, 160, depends on how much your motor car can, So then, that's why there is always a speed limit, 100 kilometers or something. So if you want to drive on this road, then you have to restrain your speed at 100 kilometers. Which means restrain your mind basically, because it's not the car that needs to be restrained. What needs to be restrained is your mind, isn't it? Meaning that to follow the dharma or the rule that your speed limit should be 100 kilometers, should not exceed 100 kilometers. My tendency to take liberty, how does it feel 120, how does it feel 140, 160, 180, a lot of excitement is there. So if you want to explore and get excitement, all those tendencies have to be kept in check, is it not? A lot of self-restraint is involved. So, it depends upon your age. Younger you are, naturally, more the desire to explore, excitement is there. Older you become, it's easier. But still, at any point in time, for older people, some other temptation may be there. That speed may not be a temptation, something else may be there. For human beings, there is always temptation, something or the other way, everybody is there. What attracts you may not attract me, so I'm a great Mahatma, but something else attracts me, And so everybody has to keep under check. Meaning that for living life of righteousness, self-restraint is a must. We have to restrain our impulses of temptations, of taking liberty. When you start taking liberty, then slowly mind takes liberty. There is one Mahatma, a sadhu, living in a forest, in a hut. A Virakta, Mahatma. Means renunciate. One day, one devotee comes to him with a sword. Says, Maharaj, this sword, SWRD, sword, they would call it a sword. It is in our family since last so long, maybe a few hundred years. It's very precious. I'm going for a pilgrimage which is going to take some time. And I like that this sword be protected, that. So, I brought you safest place. I brought it to you. Would you mind if I leave that sword hanging here? Because nobody will take it away from here. But okay, keep it there. What does it matter to me? It's there, Mahatma forgets it. What does he have to do with the sword? Except one day, there was a little bit of land around his kutia, his hut. And the grass was growing, and then the time came to deal with cutting the grass. And he could not find anything there around to do that. And so he said, there is a sword there. We can use it. So use the sword to cut the grass. Somebody brought the fruit and you didn't have any use that. So like that, slowly that use of sword became more and more, prevalent. It's convenient. Sword is hanging. One day a man came and started attacking this fellow, Mahatma, He remembered the sword. The sword was used to kill that fellow. So what I'm saying is, when you start taking liberty, the boundaries are slowly compromised. You never know where you end up. Vivek Chudamani gives the example of a ball. Ball, tennis ball. It keeps on rolling down the step. So also the human mind is like that. If you don't pay attention, it's a slippery path. Maya, that's called Maya. Always temptations are there. And we have to restrain our mind. So dharma. But there are many who don't care for that. They don't believe in restraining the mind. They just do what the mind wants them to do. In which case, in no time, you will start compromising like that and you will use the sword to kill somebody also. Like our great President of the United States says, some school boy killed some 17 people. So what do? You should stop giving them guns or allowing, making them... Says, no, give teachers also guns. So you solve the problem with guns. The argument that in America, the American Rifle Association is called ARA. NRI, National Rifle Association, right? NRI, right? Who are very powerful fellows, I guess, and the strongest lobby, and no politician can displease them because their all donations depend upon them. So they rule the roost. Anyway, so there is a constant argument. Stop giving these guns to people. They kill. He says the guns don't kill. Guns protect. It's a view, isn't it? You are killed because you don't have a gun. If you had a gun, you would not have been killed. So give them guns. So he says, give teachers also guns, Anyway, so as I said, human mind can think anyway, can justify anything. And therefore you start justifying your behavior, your liberties, and then it's a sliding path, slippery path. So therefore, long before a person realizes there is nothing adharma or violations are there, because ultimately his impulses take hold of him, they get better of him, and it's the impulse of lust and anger and greed that decide what he does. So he keeps on violating the rules and thus keeps on accumulating what? Papa, or all the the opposite of virtue, all the vicious things he keeps on accumulating, papa karma. So what happens to that fellow after death? He gets born to all these lower, the adhoyonis or the lower births he gets. Including being born as this, mosquitoes and flies, and whose life is only they're born and they're dying, born and dying. Jayasva, Mriyasva, Jayasva, Mriyasva. That's a third. So then, here the three gatis, or three passages, or three destinations are described. One is the destination where after death you travel through the southern path to enjoy in that world and come back as human being. Other is the travel through northern path when you go to the Brahmaloka, and perhaps you may or may not come back depending upon what intention you had. And third is all this gati, other lower births of nothing but pain and suffering. So Bhashyakara says all of this is a realm of samsara. Whatever you can achieve by performance of rituals And even if you accompany rituals with meditations, then also you cannot escape samsara. What is samsara? A sense of limitation you cannot escape. Nothing can make you limitless. Whatever be the accomplishment, whether if it is in Brahmaloka also, you remain an experiencer of pleasure. You don't become happiness, you remain experiencer of happiness. So that distance between the enjoyer of happiness and the object of happiness remains even into Brahmaloka also. As long as the duality remains, as we said the other day, there is a sense of limitation. And therefore you are not free from sense of limitation. What human being is seeking is absolute freedom from all limitations. And you cannot get that freedom as long as you look upon yourself as an experiencer or enjoyer. However great an enjoyer or experiencer you are going to be still limited because an experiencer is different from the object of experience. There is this triad: the experiencer, experienced, and experience. The doer, what is done and doing. So karta, karma, and kriya. Bhokta, bhogya, and bhoga. You follow? In every experience, these three factors will be there, but each factor is limited. Is it not so? So, however great an experiencer you become, you are experienced in Brahmaloka, you still remain an experiencer of an exalted nature, but don't become limitless. Because you can't become limitless. Whatever kind of a great rituals you perform, you still remain a performer, a karta, a doer. And therefore, this doer, karta, experiencer, bhokta, as long as kartrutva, bhoktritva, the notion that I am a doer, I am an experiencer, as long as I have those notions about myself, so long I always feel a sense of lack, because each karta and bhokta, each one of them is limited. Meaning that I cannot become free from the sense that I am a limited being. That's the idea. Even with the Brahmaloka also. You cannot become free from the sense of that you are limited. What is human being seeking? What we are seeking is unconditional freedom from all limitations. That's what we are seeking. Whether we understand that or not. Most people do not understand what they want, so they keep doing things. But a few of them who understood, they become the adhikaris or students for the Upanishad. Those in whom this insight is arisen, that what I am seeking is nitya vastu, or something permanent, eternal. That not only I want happiness, but I want everlasting happiness. Not only I want freedom, I want unconditional freedom. So everlasting happiness means what? Which never ends. That's everlasting, is it not? What is everlasting? It always lasts. It doesn't end. What is that will not end, you know? What is that will not end? That which doesn't begin. Whatever begins has to end. Jatasya dhruva mrityu. Whatever is born is perishable. So if you want imperishable happiness, it should be happiness which is not born. Is it not so? Happiness that you normally experience always born. When there is contact of an object of pleasure with the experiencer of pleasure, then there is a happiness that is born, which also comes to an end. If you want everlasting happiness, then that happiness which does not end also should not be born. Is it not so? So when happiness is not born, then what about that? What does not end is not born. So what kind of thing is it? is always there. Is it not so? It must be always there. Otherwise, what is birth? It did not exist before this moment. It came to existence now. That's called birth, isn't it? So what begins? That is called beginning, which did not exist before it began. And then it came into existence. Is it not so? Like there's a part here is created. So you can also have a birth time and date of this part. Because before that time, the part was not there. It came into being at that time like a child. At the birth time. The astrologer first wondered, when were you born? That's the problem in India. I don't know. My uncle, when I was born someplace in a village or town, I don't know in which corner, and my uncle went, to municipality after several days and he just gave some date. What's the time of birth? My mother said, I think somebody said that you were born when there were riots in this place. So then you have to connect the date. Oh, when you were born, I think there was some kind of an eclipse, something was there. That's how they fixed the time. They don't have idea. They didn't know the importance of the time and the exact. So when the astrologer makes a chart, So then now there is an astrologer who looks at you. You were born in 1946. No, he really. And then says 54? No. 50? No. 48? No. 46? Yes. November? No. June? No. April? Yes. So April 1946. 30th? No. 18th? No. 17th? Yes. So 17th April 1946 you are born. You are born at 10 o'clock in the morning? I don't know. You are born at 6 minutes past 4 o'clock in the morning. So that's my time of, I just said something, I didn't reveal my actual time and date. Something I said. No, because otherwise you'll go into an Swami was born on this date and then get a chart that will be wrong, That's what I'm saying. It may be right also, but now I have created confusion in your mind. But anyway, when can we fix the time of birth? Because before that I did not exist, was in this world, and I came into this world at that time. That's called birth. So that is called birth, where that which is born did not exist before the moment of birth, and it came into existence. Is it not so? So if happiness has to be eternal or everlasting, it cannot be born, means that it cannot be, it was not there. That means it must always be there. As Lord Krishna says in the Gita, Nat vivaham jatunasam natvam neme janadhipaha. The second chapter of Gita, have you studied? Okay. The 12th verse. Nat vivaham jatunasam natvam neme janadhipaha. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, hey Arjuna, there never was a time when I was not. All that, you are God, so that is okay. But there was never a time when you were not, because I am Arjuna, There never was a time when all these people were not, meaning we always were, meaning that there was no birth. Nasaivana bhavishyam, there will not be a time when we will not be, meaning that we will always be there. That means we, you and I, what we really are, free from birth and death. That's called Nitya. Nitya can be translated as whatever you want. Eternal, Swami didn't like certain words anyway, so eternal, everlasting, Nityam. That's what we want. If we analyze what we want, what's the desire behind all the desires? We'll find out that the desire is for everlasting happiness. It can be everlasting provided it is not beginning, no beginning. It is not born. Which means what? Any happiness that comes from an object of happiness is always born. Where is it born? When I come in contact with the object of happiness. And if all factors are favorable, then there is an experience of happiness. Every experience is a beginning, and also it will have an end. So if I want everlasting happiness, it cannot be an experience, is it not so? Any happiness that is experienced will always have a beginning and end. So it can be experienced happiness. You follow? Then what kind of happiness should it be? It's not experienced happiness. What kind of happiness should it be? Which is no beginning, no end, which is always there. There is no answer. Can there be such a thing? Because we are so oriented always to look for happiness out there that we can't see. But there is another fellow left in. Who is that? The experiencer. If happiness is not experienced, meaning not originating from something other than myself, so what's the other source or what's the other origin left? My own self, is it not so? Meaning that everlasting happiness that I am seeking has to be what? Has to be myself. In which case it is not something to be achieved because it's already myself. Can I achieve myself? Do I need to achieve myself? No. Then what? So looks like from all this reasoning that everlasting happiness has to be my own nature. And still I find myself an unhappy person. So what is right? The reasoning that everlasting happiness should be my nature, or my experience or my opinion that I am an unhappy person, what should be right? The two contradictory views now about myself. One view is that everlasting happiness should be my nature. Other view, that is my view. What is it? I am an unhappy person. What should be right? What about my view about myself, my experience? I'm an unhappy person, I'm a limited person. It's an experience, is it not so? Is it not an intimate experience that we are unhappy or limited? Is it not so? No? Doesn't everybody experience, Swamiji, I'm limited, I'm helpless, I'm dependent? Is not so? So what is right? Is my experience right? Or this understanding that everlasting happiness should be my nature, what should be right? No answer? It's a very difficult question. I ask simple, don't complicate it. I ask simple question. What should be right? Both are right? That's interesting. What should be right? Don't know. Nothing is right? It's not. Oh, that's even more complicated. I'm not asking very, I'm not a mystical questions, etc. This is very worldly, day-to-day stuff I'm talking about. Not all the other worldly stuff and some mystical experience. I'm not talking about that. Simple day-to-day life. That I feel that I'm a limited fellow, and the reason say that I should be limitless. Then what should be right? Should limitlessness be about me should be right, or that limitedness about me? What should be right? Both of them cannot be right, is it not so? They cannot coexist. Limitlessness. Then what about my experience that I am limited? Maya. Oh, don't give me these answers, Maya. That is it's a very traditionally correct answer, but I am asking for, simple, understandable answer. That's all. You can always say Maya, and that is the answer to everything, no doubt. Varies from person to person. So what about this experience of mine that I am limited? Imagination. Are you imagining that you are unhappy? You are crying as this fellow is crying and weeping. He's not imagining anything. Ignorance. Wow, that's a fantastic answer, right? Ignorance. You see, there are some answers you can always give in Vedanta and get away with them, Maya, ignorance. And everybody is, impressed by those answers. That's the answer we give and get away. That's a different thing. These Vedantic fellows, when they don't find this is Maya, ignorance, mithya. Yes, sir, must be so,
Swamiji identified with body or mind.
So is it when I claim that it is my experience that I am an unhappy person, is it my experience that I am unhappy? Is it my experience that I am limited? No? Not your experience that you are limited? I experience something that is limited, and I say that I experience myself when I am limited. But then, am I experiencing myself and finding it limited, or I experience something else which is limited and say that I am limited? What it is that this body, sense organs, mind, they also experience two things. They experience simultaneously. Understand? The self is always self-evident. Therefore, I cannot but experience it. It's my nature. Experience of my nature. But then, at the same time, the body, sense organs, mind, that prakriti. Remember yesterday's discussion? Or personality. Or my costume. That is also shining. That also is experienced. So my inability to distinguish between two things, that one is experienced as the self, other is experienced as the non-self, one is experience of the experiencer, one is experience of the object, one is experience of subject, other is experience of object. You follow? So it's body, sense organs, are they subject or object? Are they drishya or druk? They are objects of experience, not so. The self and non-self. Non-self. So self and non-self, both of them are experienced simultaneously. So you can't blame that fellow if he concludes that I am a limited being. The problem is inability to distinguish between the self and non-self. That the limitations that we experience belong to non-self, that is body, mind, sense complex. And that I am is the experience of myself, and I lump them together. The limitedness also is there. I am also is there. But I am limited is what? Lumping together. That's the word our Swami used to, lumping together. Lumping together what? The self and non-self. So when I declare I am limited, that statement on my part shows that I have lumped two things together. I am is myself, limited belongs to the body, to the non-self, to the mind. So it is not that I experience that I am limited. I think that I am limited. You follow? It is the interpretation of my experience. We experience something all right, then we interpret that. So that I am limited is the interpretation of my experience rather than the reality about my experience. Follow? Then what do we do? Answer is simple. Now what do we do? What do we need to do? What do we need to do? Separate the two, isn't it? That I am limited. I am belongs to whom? The self. Subject. Limited belongs to the object, non-self, right? Yes, so then that experiencing of limited is not a problem. His interpretation of that experience is the problem, understand? So wise person also experiences body. Not that he experiences limitlessness. Body is limited, however it is. So for wise person also the body, sense organs, mind, whatever we call the kshetra or the object or non-self is limited. And I am is limitless for wise person or otherwise person also. Is it not so? So what do we need to do? Separate the two. That's called viveka, separation. Where two things appear to be one, they need to be separated. That's where the Upanishad comes. So now comes the question of understanding rather than doing something, you follow? Here there is nothing to be done. That I am limited, nothing is to be done to become limitless. Because I am already limitless. What do I have to do? To recognize that the limitedness does not belong to I am, it belongs to something else, to the body, mind, sense complex. So now the whole thing changes. So far it was a matter of doing something to experience. So I thought that I had to experience happiness. As long as I think that I have to experience happiness, so long I should perform the karma and etc. and achieve those realms to fulfill my desire of experiencing happiness. If as a result of leading a mature life that we discussed yesterday, that if we live a life of what we call the emotional maturity, where we learn and grow, so what is the real emotional maturity? When this understanding arises in me that I need to know myself, I don't need to become something, what I need is to know myself. When the desire gets transformed from doing something to knowing something, you follow this? What is the transformation of what? The desire still remains. But the desire gets transformed from desire to become, from there to desire to know. You follow this? Now you can ask questions about all of this in satsang. So this is something that has to be understood. In case this is not clear to you, so these are the kind of things that you can ask. So as you are listening to this, we make note of this is not clear to me, these I don't understand. Then the question, what discussion in satsang becomes relevant to what we are discussing in the class. You can ask anything you want, there is no restriction. But while you are listening, if questions arise in your mind, since we don't have the luxury of asking, otherwise you can ask right now and that would be perhaps good, but it becomes unwieldy, unmanageable. And when a person asks question, God knows where he asks, and it goes into some other realm if you that question answer. Everybody gets distracted, and therefore we don't, we avoid this question answer when the class is going on. But if you make a note, then you can ask a very relevant question. So this is where the Upanishad comes. When this transformation has happened in what we call that's called emotional maturity or intellectual maturity, both, where the desire to become a devata, desire to become Indra, desire to become Brahma, to experience all those pleasures, when that desire has transformed itself into desire to know what is, it's a big transformation. So that is really what we call emotional maturity, the fulfillment of maturity. That's what the day-to-day life can give us. That's what the active life can give us that. Then the activity has served the purpose. Then comes the next stage of life, which will be what? Life of what? Not activity, life of contemplation. So that's why Vedanta talks about sannyasa, etc. Anyway, so here Bhashyakara says how the connection between what has gone by and what is coming. What has gone by was all motivated by the desire to become. As a result, if Vividisha, the desire to know, arises, then here is the section of the Vedas called Upanishad, which fulfills the desire to know. And thus, Upanishad addresses our desire to know. Okay, we'll continue. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.